Some stores are more dangerous to work at, with lower security, higher cost products, and more cash on hand. Often these stores have an extremely low margin and thus require cash payments. There can be several thousands of dollars in cash at the end of the night, meaning it can be a recipe for disaster. Consider this harrowing incident where a young cashier was cornered by armed assailants at a liquor store in Queens. With their faces concealed by masks, the gunmen stormed the store and aggressively approached the 19-year-old employee. In a high-stress situation like this, the frightened cashier chose to comply without hesitation. This chilling example underscores the importance of implementing robust security measures and protocols to protect both employees and customers from such dangerous encounters. And it also shows that sometimes people are going to be dangerous and violent in public, and you need to be ready to protect yourself from attackers. The truth is, sometimes having someone confident and capable of keeping you safe with a gun is next level, something that really comes in handy when push comes to shove. What happens when seasoned criminals encounter an experienced liquor store employee who knows how to handle high-pressure situations? Sometimes, a well-prepared individual with a firearm can defuse a dangerous scenario in mere moments. These armed robbers quickly discovered that they had underestimated their target. They may have started off confidently, with the man in the orange shirt taking the lead, but the savvy cashier didn't hesitate in the face of a life-or-death situation. That's the key. No hesitation. The man in the orange shirt could be heard yelling after his accomplices, claiming his arm had been shot off. The outcome could have been very different if the cashier hadn't been so composed and capable of executing his defense so seamlessly. This story highlights the importance of remaining calm and decisive when confronted with dangerous situations and how the right actions can make all the difference. Some people hold it together at work incredibly well. They keep themselves composed, say all the right things, punch in and punch out. Some people go above and beyond the call of duty, so to speak. This hotel clerk came to work with the full intention of going home that night, and not even an armed robber was going to get in her way. He comes rushing in with his semi-automatic weapon in the air. However, what he didn't expect was the clerk to pull out her own rifle in self-defense. Without that weapon, she might not have been so lucky, and sometimes it really does pay off to have someone willing to go the extra mile. Being out at work, you're stuck with whoever walks in. If your job is in a bad area, or if your store carries a lot of cash and has very little security, you're at risk. However, not everyone is safe, even from the safety of their own home. Imagine taking out your trash can, expecting it to be just another mundane chore, when suddenly you're confronted by two armed men. That's exactly what happened to this unsuspecting individual who faced a terrifying situation in broad daylight. As people returned home from work or school, these two brazen men approached their target, demanding his car while shoving a gun in his face. Despite the bustling neighborhood, the man found himself in a precarious position, feeling anything but secure. However, the would-be carjackers experienced a stroke of bad luck. They fumbled their attempt to steal the car and ultimately decided to flee the scene. Little did they know security cameras captured the entire ordeal, providing clear images of their faces. This chilling incident serves as a reminder that danger can lurk even in the most seemingly ordinary situations. That's the kind of situation that would make people look over their shoulder, always afraid. How do they know? They may wonder if they're being watched or truly alone, and that sense of constant, rigid vigilance can take a toll on someone's well-being. Sometimes, though, it's good to be a little wary of strangers, just enough to keep yourself and even your family safe if need be. When this robber makes his way up to the door, he's brazen and confident in his movements. In broad daylight, no less, he opens up this back door with no hesitation. However, no matter how confident you are, you're never going to want to go one-on-one with an angry homeowner with a gun. The homeowner handles things carefully. He's armed, but does not point the gun at the would-be burglar. Instead, he directs him from his patio, gun pointed down towards the ground. The man still complies with instructions because he doesn't want to end up on the other end of that machine. The homeowner doesn't need to wave his gun around because in this situation, he always had the upper hand. Being prepared for self-defense can make all the difference in a dangerous situation. Take this courageous mother from Miami Gardens, for example, who demonstrated just how far she'd go to protect her family and children. When a would-be attacker tried to kick down her door, he was met with a sight he surely won't forget anytime soon. The determined mother armed with a shotgun, ready to defend her loved ones. Her quick thinking and protective instincts may have saved her family's lives very well. Surprisingly, the attacker's brazenness didn't wane even though he was in full view of the busy highway. He charged at the door, but the fearless mother wasn't going to back down. She sent the intruder fleeing as he sprinted back to his car with his tail between his legs, knowing he'd picked the wrong house to mess with. When people feel their lives are in danger, they often act on instinct. Wearing just flip-flops and pajamas, he didn't hesitate to grab his gun and start shooting. In this particular case, his rapid response might have been the very thing that saved him and his wife's lives. Faced with the determined homeowner and his sturdy car as a shield, the would-be robbers found themselves up against a formidable obstacle. A hail of bullets sent them fleeing, making it abundantly clear that they had picked the wrong house to target. To say they chose poorly would be a massive understatement. This was the worst possible outcome for their ill-conceived plan. Allowing individuals unrestricted access to weapons doesn't always translate to self-protection. That's the thought behind arming yourself. You want to protect your life, your liberty, your family, and whatever else you have. But not everyone should have a gun. Not everyone is capable of the responsibility, and it leaves us wondering, should dangerous people be able to get permits or buy guns irresponsibly? Meet Eric Popper from Miami, Florida, who recently had his charges dismissed, but not without his dashcam catching this truly hair-raising incident. It all began when someone allegedly threw a water bottle at Popper's vehicle on the I-95 highway. In a fit of road rage, Popper didn't think twice before taking matters into his own hands. He started shooting at the presumed attacker, later claiming that the person hadn't tossed a water bottle but had a gun. Florida's stand your ground laws protected Popper in this case, but things could have taken a tragic turn if he'd been more accurate with his shots. Road rage is never a good thing, but it's particularly dangerous when the person losing their temper is armed. This incident serves as a reminder that not everyone may be responsible enough to handle the power that comes with owning a gun. Reality TV isn't always just drama and scripted chaos. Sometimes it captures dangerous real-life situations. Take Janelle Evans, star of Teen Mom 2, who found herself in a heated confrontation on the highway. It's easy to see the lines between right and wrong in this instance. After being cut off and yelling at the other driver, Evans retrieves a handgun from her car's compartment. She then follows the driver back to their home, leading to a tense standoff between them. The situation escalates when the other driver, feeling threatened by Evans following them, decides to smash into her car. It's likely that the other driver didn't see Evans brandishing their gun, but they had every right to feel threatened. Following someone home is an intimidating move, and you never know what to expect. This incident, captured on camera and aired on TV, also included an emotional defense from Evans' young son who tried to justify his mother's actions. Often people make split-second decisions, and that's when they can end up making dangerous mistakes. Perhaps the stakes are high and they're not considering the potential consequences of their actions. This tunnel vision can ultimately lead to their downfall. It's an unsettling truth that sometimes people with firearms aren't exactly the brightest bulbs in the box, but believe it or not, there can be a silver lining to such situations. You see, their lack of smarts can sometimes work against them, and that's precisely what happened in this case. Meet Desira Fetchers, a 29-year-old who found herself facing charges of endangerment and carrying a gun on school grounds. A chilling thought, no doubt. But as luck would have it, Desira wasn't the sharpest shooter in town. When she decided to pull out her weapon, she unknowingly did so right in front of a vigilant Phoenix police officer. Thankfully, there was no struggle or dramatic showdown. It turns out that Desira simply hadn't noticed the cop's presence. Her lack of awareness proved to be her downfall, leading to her swift apprehension before any harm could be done. So in this case, we can be grateful that it wasn't a more cunning individual wielding the gun. You can tell right away that this guy's up to no good, but he's also visibly nervous. Mixing anxiety with a firearm is a dangerous combination, and thankfully this tense situation comes to a swift conclusion. The last thing you want is to agitate an already anxious person, especially when they've got their finger on the trigger. Upon reviewing the security footage, it becomes apparent that the perpetrator didn't think things through. The video captures multiple clear shots of the man's face, making it easier for authorities to identify him. Bizarrely, he even buys a mask from the very store he's about to target, giving the cashier an up-close look at his face before the attempted robbery. There's never a good reason to hold up a gas station, but if someone's gonna do it, they should at least have a better plan than this. High-end stores, regardless of the cash they have on hand, can also be prime targets for criminals looking to exploit their valuable merchandise. Take this upscale clothing store in Queens, for example, known for its expensive fashion items. Unfortunately, its reputation didn't go unnoticed by thieves. The store was just one in a series of robberies in the area. The robbers were swift and efficient, using their firearms to keep the cashiers in check, knowing that fear could lead to mistakes. They appeared to be professionals, quickly grabbing tens of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and stuffing it into garbage bags, leaving almost nothing behind. For retail employees, the best course of actions in such situations is often to avoid resistance and prioritize their own safety. It's better to let the dangerous criminals take what they want and focus on staying alive to live another day. Distinguishing a good guy with a gun from a bad guy with a gun can be incredibly difficult. After all, people are just people, and appearances can be deceiving. However, sometimes heroes reveal themselves through their courageous actions, even if those actions carry risks. In the case of this determined individual, he refused to be a victim. By seizing his attacker's gun, he took control of the situation and turned the tables on his assailants. He fired at the attacker's accomplice, likely injuring him in the process. It's impossible to predict who'll find the strength to fight back in such circumstances, but when they do, it can be the difference between life and death. You can never truly predict who you'll encounter in public places. Even the most carefully planned crime can go awry when unexpected heroes emerge. Katya Silva Sastre was fortunate enough to be present when a man brandished his weapon, menacing a group of parents and children. Acting on instinct and with the determination to protect her family, she not only shot the attacker, neutralizing the threat, but also kept him pinned to the ground with her foot on his back. Katya's quick thinking and courageous actions prevented a potentially disastrous situation. It's a relief that she was there. After all, an unhinged individual with a gun approaching children is a nightmare scenario that nobody wants to witness. We have just one more clip for you today, and this one packs a punch. If you do a search on YouTube, you'll find plenty of advocates telling you having a gun isn't the danger, that you should have one, or someone should. They'll tell you stories of good guys with guns, keeping people safe or jumping to conclusions. There's an argument to be had, and dangerous people with guns exist, even when they don't intend to harm other people. Careless, reckless handling of a gun can be just as dangerous as a psycho with a vendetta, and people can often do more harm than good by jumping in unsuspectingly. The argument, like many other people have said, is not black and white. People for guns have just as much say as the people against them, and sometimes simply being armed can be enough to keep you safe in a pinch. This leaves a lot up for interpretation. This last clip is a sobering reminder that even when everyone is armed and prepared, it's not always enough. In the case of this recent school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, officers were on the scene, armed and ready to confront the attacker. Yet shockingly, they hesitated for nearly 45 minutes before taking action. Even then, taking action doesn't actually mean ending everything. In fact, more time passes, more weapons come, more manpower arrives, and still nothing is done. Despite their heavily armed presence, the officers seemed frozen, unable to put a stop to the violence unfolding before them. It took almost 70 minutes for them to finally engage the shooter, and when they did, it was over quickly. Well, the question remains, what held them back? This situation raises serious doubts about the effectiveness of good guys with guns in preventing or stopping violent attacks. If even well-trained police officers struggle to act decisively in the heat of the moment, how can we rely on armed individuals to keep us safe in these situations?